Hello, Darlene. How are you? Thank you for coming in. We're gonna just got Lisa in the back room here in the green room. We're gonna let people populate a little bit, and then we'll get started. Or if you're popping in, just say hello so we can see that you're here. Thank you, Darlene. We appreciate that. Hi, Bonnie. We're gonna give it just a few minutes, like just coming in. Give it a few minutes. Let it populate. Bobby, how are you? Let people kind of get filter in, and then we'll get started. Robin, thanks for coming in, Robin. Appreciate that. Everyone else getting snow, or we got hammered today? Almost, I think it was about 8 inches. All right, we'll give it just another minute here. Yeah, we had the winds too, Darlene. It was windy, but it's snowing like crazy. It didn't stop until right around 4 o'clock this afternoon. It stopped. Now I got to go clean it up. All right. What do we got? Thank you, Bonnie. We get to 10 people in, we're going to start. We've got 8. Let's get 2 more people in, and we can. I've been posting the ad for it all day, and it showed. Robin, I don't know if you noticed, it showed up in when you posted it. It showed up. YouTube picked it up. YouTube Shorts picked it up. That's actually how I was like, oh, look, and then I realized it was you that had put it up. All right, we got 7. Oh, we lost somebody. Hopefully more people will come in. They said they were going to come in, but I'm going to bring Lisa from Bring on the Spectrum into the into the uh, into the stream here, and then we'll get started. So let's just make sure, Lisa, you can hear me.
I can hear you.
All right. So everybody, most everybody in the chat knows me. I'm Jason with Jabby's Treasures. Um, we, we focus on reselling with this channel, but one thing we're gonna talk about a little bit more today is how it takes a community, um, and so we shared this out with all of our community, our friends, our family, our reselling friends, our Bring on the Spectrum friends, um, friends of friends. So that's why we're here. I'm very proud to be a friend of that lady right there, Lisa. She is the founder and owner, I guess, of Bring on the Spectrum here in Albany, in the Albany, New York area. And it is an absolutely amazing community space and sensory gym. So Lisa, thank you for joining us tonight. That's let's start there. And if you don't mind, tell us, what is bots? What is bots, and what are we talking about tonight? What is Bring on the Spectrum?
Sure. First, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate those that are tuning in. Jason, you're an autism dad, and I'm an autism mom, and we created Bring on the Spectrum Community Space and Sensory Gym here in Albany, New York, because we saw a need. We saw gaps in what our neurodiverse population have available to them for social, recreational, and lifestyle activities. So the sensory gym, pretty much sounds like what it is, right? There's swings and climbing slides and tactile interactives and all the things that would be conducive of any sensory gym that might be in any community across the country. But what we feel is the game changer for our community is the community space and the ability to offer activities for the population in a atmosphere that will be safe and inclusive, and it is all ages and all abilities. So again, a lot of folks might think of a sensory gym and think of really young kids play place, and that's what it is. But the sensory gym also serves the older population, and what we saw was where does someone go for an art class or a yoga class or Zumba. I think one of the best things that I did for my daughter was I signed her up for Girl Scouts. We had 8 kids in a troop, so it was a very small troop, which was easy for her to handle and to manage. But what was even better was she had the ability through the council to attend specific events that really are more introductory in nature. So a lot of times, whether it's gymnastics or music or something like that, they're trying to get your kid to sign up from September to June. And our population are not 10-month people. But what we did with Girl Scouts was, she was able to go to one self-defense class. She earned a belly dancing badge. I even say that with pride. But the ability to go to a one-time event, introduce yourself to it for a very low cost, and then if there's more interest, try to follow up on that interest. And so that's what we see. What we want to be able to do at Bots is just have different events that our individuals can participate in, and if it's something that interests them, then they can continue to attend that specific event, but they can try other events. And then for the middle school and high school age kids, let's face it, you and I in those age groups, we were awkward, right? Add on a layer of an intellectual or developmental disability, something like autism, and it's compounded. And so we want to offer teen movie nights. We're going to do a teen hangout where you can just come hang out. We've got foosball, ping pong, air hockey, cornhole, Jenga, just activities that you would hang out and do. But again, you're doing it at Bots, which is a community that is understanding of you, and inclusive, and it's neurotypical and neurodiverse.
Right. I was going to bring that. So it's important factor. You know, it's for everyone, right? It's inclusive of everyone.
Yep.
My son, who is autistic, you know, he loves the gym. My daughter, who is not autistic, loves the gym as well. She loves being there and participating. So and it's such a wonderful space. Um, so
And Jason, I mean, like, your family is a great example of what we were trying to, what we had in mind. Like, if you've got a family where there's one neurotypical and one neurodiverse, a lot of times those families on a Saturday are going off into two different locations, right? Like,
yeah,
if they can't come to the same space because of a comfort level, and then let's face it, the kids are fighting over who goes with mom and who goes with dad. You guys are, in school all week, working, all that sort of stuff. So Saturday is really that time where you should be together. So this way you can put everybody in the car. If both kids want to play in the sensory gym, great. But if we're offering art or yoga or something else in the community space, then that's even a place where the neurotypical can be like, I don't want to do the sensory gym today. I'd rather take art. But at least you're all in the same building, right? Like, you're not
right,
divvying up your family, because, one child needs, different considerations because of, sensory and stimulation issues. So you
right.
guys are like the perfect example of what bots can create and how we can kind of keep the family together on the weekends.
I'll tell you, it's so nice not to have to go off to 4 different places on a, on a weekend or whatever, and split up and figure out the calendar on the wall, who's going where. That is so nice for us. I know. Just gonna say hi Beth. Thanks for coming in. If I missed anybody, Rhonda, thank you for coming in. Rhonda's um, reminding people to hit the thumbs up and share and subscribe and all that other good stuff. So please share out so we can get some more people in if they're interested. If you do have questions for us or for Lisa in particular related to bots, put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. But we'll kind of do that at the end, unless there's something that really comes up in based on what the conversation that we're in. So Lisa, you mentioned activities, and I know my kids are coming to art tomorrow, or the plan is for us to be at the art tomorrow. You have yoga. We were there for a day. There was a game in one of the smaller rooms. There was a board game day, or I guess is how you word it. What other activities like that do you have, and what's in the pipeline? What's coming up? What are you hoping to have there coming
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, I mean, board games is hopefully going to be a staple. The woman that is putting on our board games, incredible, former special education teacher, and what she's done is, modified board games and created her own. Because if you think about what board games do, we all play board games with our families, but it is it's an ability to provide connection. But by modifying them or just being aware of how our population, our neurodiverse population, need to, play board games. If you think about board games, they can be high anxiety, right? Like, it's who finishes something first, who's the fastest. You're knocking someone else's pieces off. I mean, if you think about it, board game makers have made it very, uber competitive. But if you do board games, a little bit differently, they are a point of great connection, right? Like, it's, like a little sly move, something like that. So I think board games is, in our space, will be an awesome thing. We've got a Zumba instructor. We'll have music therapy, both for groups and for individuals. Um, we want to do some things in the fitness area, and not really, it's not about like lifting weights and those sort of things. I mean, with our individuals, I always say this: my daughter could trip over a piece of lint. Just it's the spatial awareness type thing. So it's kind of building their core, and getting fitness in them. One of the neat things about the sensory gym is we do have, a recumbent bike. And so we've got that physical exercise component available for our teen population. Because for the most part, our individuals get very engrossed in video game play and that sort of thing. So again, just
Right.
trying to keep them, keep them active, keep them moving. With that said, we do want to do esports at the space. Not in an uber competitive type model, but just again, it's what our population enjoys, but to do it in a way that provides connectivity. So if you look at what we were talking about with the teen hangout night, all of those activities require somebody else. You're playing air hockey, you're playing cornhole, you're playing Jenga. So you're working with somebody else, creating that connectivity, that connection, that relationship, and hopefully we can kind of build on some of those skills, because all of those skills are important for their post high school lives, whatever that might be. And the ability to work on some of those skills at a younger age will be able to impact some outcomes.
Awesome. So I see Abby is in the chat. She joined in. Awesome. My daughter Abby.
The Abby of Jabby.
Yeah, the Abby of Jabby. That's right. So stepping back a little bit. So I know, you and I have talked. You have talked to me about bots for a couple of years now, and it kind of got COVID slowed everything down a little bit, right? But you had right. It was last weekend was the official grand opening.
Yes.
Was that? Yeah. How'd that go? I mean, what was how's the press been? How has the community been? How's the press been? Really based on grand opening? Come on in, bud. How?
I think you want a break for this.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Actually, hold on one second. So I'm sorry. So can you say hi to everybody, buddy?
Hi.
This is Adler. Who's that? Is that Miss Lisa?
Hey, Miss Lisa.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Can you? We haven't talked about your birthday party, but do you want to tell them where you're going to have your birthday party?
At your place.
Where? At Miss Lisa's gym?
Yep.
And what's going to be your theme? Miss Lisa
Angry
asked me the other day, and I didn't know.
Angry Birds and Minions.
Angry Birds and Minions.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Thanks, buddy. You can stick around if you want. So the press is
sure. We announced bots back in November. Just kind of did an introductory type thing, and that was important to us because we had taken a lot of time to find our location. We wanted to be centrally located here in the capital region. We wanted to have great parking. Eyes on the door for safety, so individuals can easily get in the door. Which is not something that everybody might not be aware of. But it was also important for fundraising, quite honestly. I had been talking to a lot of companies and applied for grants, and it all sounds great, right? Like I sound great right now, but without the four walls and the roof, you really had to kind of bring kind of plant the flag of, hey, this is where we're going to be. And so it took us about a month or two to finish up the fit up work. And so we did the announcement last Friday. I kind of chose, did a soft opening during February, the end of February, but the actual grand opening, I chose Friday, March 4th, as that happens to be my daughter and mine gotcha day. I had adopted my daughter 9 years ago. And so I thought, what better way to bring on the spectrum, aka bots, but then to also celebrate 9 years with my daughter. So it was a lot of fun. It's been a long road. I mean, you mentioned community earlier. We don't get our group of folks who have put this together don't get to where we are today without the community, and that includes parents and individuals like yourself and your lovely wife Emily, being and doing really absolutely anything that's been asked. But we've been talking to parents and individuals. We've been talking to direct service agencies and other nonprofits. I call it a listen and learn tour. This isn't the first time I've been in front of my psychedelic backdrop on a Zoom type call. listening and learning and just trying to figure out, what was needed and what was missing. And, we've partnered with a lot of great organizations here in the Albany area. And it's not just the ones that everybody would think of, right? Like it's definitely, the, ARCs and, the Center for Disability Services and those types of organizations. But we've also partnered with an organization like the Seat Center. And what the Seat Center does here in the Capital Region is it's a workforce development program for 18 to 24, 25-year-olds who, left the traditional school system, whether they dropped out because of, family situations or what have you. But what they do is they go to school, they work on their GED in the morning, and then they get job training in the afternoon in the areas of construction, manufacturing, hospitality. So, we're partnering with them because our long-term goal is to work with them on a program to improve the employability of individuals on the spectrum. The unemployment rate for people who have gone through college is staggeringly low. People that the employment rate for individuals with autism, it's just, it's, ridiculous.
Right.
And so we can work with them because they've got a model of what works for, those who were challenged by the typical school system, much like our individuals are. And so, I could see some great synergies there. So those are the types of, conversations that we're having. When you say it takes a village, it certainly does take a village. I think
Absolutely.
one thing that I've learned through this journey is there were a lot of times where I would be calling somebody up just to pick their brain about the project, but I did not know they had a connection, right? And so, I give the example, I'm talking to a friend of mine who's a marketing person, and we're talking, and I'm, just bouncing my idea of, what I wanted to do and when do we announce it and how do we unroll it and, those sorts of things. And he goes, at some point he goes, well, about my daughter, right? And, during the Zoom call, I saw, much like your daughter was behind you, I had seen a young lady walk behind him. And I'm like, no, I don't. Well, he has a middle school age daughter that was on the spectrum. The number of times that has happened, whether, one businesswoman, it was her uncle. So you're talking about somebody who's probably now age 60, grandsons. Every time I'm talking to somebody, I'm not intentionally thinking that they're connected to the autism community. But in some way, shape, or form, almost everybody is connected to the autism community. And I think that's
Right.
what makes this project, that's the fun part of it, because the connections and the ability to unite people and to, kind of, herd the cats all together. And now we've got a direction to go in. And we've made it, right? Like we're open. And now it's about, execution of the events, the customer service, the customer experience, those sorts of things. And, the long-term sustainability. You say I'm the owner and I'm really not. I mean, I'm the founder. And my hope is that in a period of time, obviously not in the next year or two, but at some point, I want to grow this and build this so that it's strong and sustainable. And I pass the baton off to someone who's younger and smarter and passionate than I am. So good luck there. But,
Yeah, I was
that's
just
the
gonna say.
goal. The goal is
Okay.
to, create something that, outlives me and my participation in it, because it's truly the community's space. And when I say the community space, I mean it. Like, I don't need to be creating the ideas, they should come from the neurodiverse community. What do they want to see? What do their families want to see? I had a mom email me that, I work at a hair salon, and I thought maybe I could do something on, personal grooming and makeup for, middle school and teenage girls, because, they want to do it, but you got to do it the right way. And how do you do it? And, and I was like, yeah, great. Because again, we have the four walls. So whatever happens in the space, really those kinds of ideas are great because, you know, that's the experience. That was the experience that she went through with her child, and now she wants to be able to help the rest of us with our kids. So that's awesome.
So talk to us about the day to day. Like, when are you open? What is there? Are there set schedules for things? What's, we're 2 weeks into it, right? Or a week and a half or whatever since grand opening. You did have a soft opening before that, but what's the day to day look like for
Sure.
you right now?
Yeah. The sensory gym is open Wednesday through Friday, 12 to 6, and then Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 4. So we don't have the sensory gym open on Monday or Tuesday, although we would for, like a field trip or something along those lines. And then the community space really is open every day, and there's different activities every day. So, Monday has, starting this Monday actually, will be our first group of music classes. Tuesday's been rotating between art and yoga. Wednesday is some more music. There will be some fitness. And Thursday, what the heck is on Thursday? I don't know. Friday nights will be our, more of our, evening type things like the movie nights and the hangouts and those sorts of activities. Also family nights where, parent night out, so the parents can drop their kids off and maybe go have a dinner at a local restaurant nearby, and get some quality time, as husband and wife, as opposed to just being moms and dads all the time.
Right.
And ooh, I got a low battery warning there. And then Saturday, Sundays is just more activities again. So, we're just cycling through all the different, all the different activities.
So, you talking about the community, and as from a parent who very recently, is fighting, advocating is the right term. We're always advocating for Adler and our daughter, but most recently we've had some tough conversations with the school district on services and next year type things. So from my perspective as a parent, I sure hope the school districts take notice of this. I don't know how many within an easy commute to Bots, there's got to be 30 school districts, right? And that's just off the top of my head. I sure hope the school districts take notice of this and start recommending and using the services for, that maybe they can't do in the school for whatever reason, but can be done at Bots because it is a space, a community space for everybody.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's available. I mean, there's, a lot of opportunity, especially with the high school transition students, trying to get them out into the community, to give them, more real life, work life type, opportunities and experiences. So, I think those are definitely, definitely viable opportunities.
Okay. You need to step out for a second, Lisa?
Yeah, just 2 minutes.
Okay. So while she is she's plugging in her getting her battery back up. Thank you everybody again. Thank you for coming in. This is important to me. As again, our son is autistic. Lisa's daughter is autistic. So this hits home to me, and having this space in this community space within a 5-minute drive or so from our house is just absolutely amazing. If anybody in the chat has questions, general questions for us, ask them. As you can see, Lisa's very very knowledgeable. She knows her stuff. And it is going to be hard to find someone more passionate on this subject than her. So I again thank you everybody for coming out, spending a little bit of time. Looks like you ready, Lisa? I think that was a thumbs up. There we go. Okay. So I don't know if you could hear me, Lisa. I was just saying how it's been great for us and how much I appreciate everyone coming in. So when you have the four walls, as you say, and there were some retrofits to the building, just like going anywhere, there were retrofit, that needed to be done. What would you say is the hardest thing that for you between kind of concept and opening the doors the first time? What's been the hardest thing to get bots off the ground?
I think one thing that, people that are thinking that they want to start their own business, and obviously a lot of you have your own businesses. I think when you look at the bricks and mortar version of it, it's the stuff that you don't know, right? So I give this example that, our local power company, you call up and you're like, oh, I'd like to return on this meter, right? And you get some meter number. And the previous tenant had what's called a demand meter, which means that they had really high impact needs at specific times. They actually were like the copiers of like architectural renderings, which is totally what our business is not, right? Like we just need lights on and some equipment, not very low needs, like steady needs all day long. Whereas this other company, and so you just call up and you turn on your meter, and it actually costs more to have a demand meter. So now they're going back and looking at our usage because I just said, hey, turn on our meter like you would do at your house, right? I didn't know there was a demand meter. I didn't know what that was. So it's those kinds of things that you're trying to navigate. That, I had taken a small business class that was offered by the Community Loan Fund here in the Capital Region. And it was like an 8-week class, and they did, insurance, they did real estate, they did all sorts of, business related topics. But it's those sorts of things. We're working with a group that was, wasn't aware that they were actually, they're personal trainers. They don't need to be charging sales tax, and they didn't know that. So I think, it's those sorts of like, day-to-day like things that you're just not realizing. And so you got to try to do the best that you can to have resources to you. But like the national grid thing, until you're talking to customer service, like how do you know something like that? So I think the easier thing was, trying to negotiate your lease, and because, all of that language you can be, kind of assisted with by a realtor. You've got your lawyer, you've got an accountant, you got all those sorts of things, but it's those, day-to-day weird things that come up that you're just like, okay, now I got to figure out, how am I going to handle this, or how am I going to do that? Even think about things like, an employment application, an employee handbook, incident reports. I mean, there's just a plethora of things that, the equipment part of it, and getting the gear in, and, painting the walls and all that, by no means was easy. But it's the, things that you don't know, right? Like, I don't know what I don't know. Like, how do I find out what I don't know? And some of that's just, some of the speed bumps along the way.
So Bobby has a question. So the people that are doing the classes and stuff, they're volunteers? Yes, they're volunteering to come in, or are they charging for the classes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture. What we've tried to do is not be in a situation where we are paying instructors and don't have people show up for the classes. So what we try to do is develop partnerships so that the instructor is as invested as we are in terms of holding the classes and having the classes, so that the instructor gets compensated for their time. But we're not at risk as a nonprofit to be taking on, like, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and this, and then you worry about then you're stressed about trying to get the people to attend. But we do have a few people that just are doing it as volunteers also, so it's a mix.
Okay. Well, yeah, so there was another question about it. Is the Special Olympics team in our community? And so the way Lisa and Emily and we met is our daughters swam together. For that, they were on a swim team together, and that's how we sat poolside for many hours while they were swimming, and that's how we met and became friends. And one of the coaches on our swim team is associated with the Special Olympics swim. So there, we do have that connection. Bots does have that connection if it ever, turns into something more. Andrea's associated there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to, I've talked to Special Olympics New York several times, trying to figure out a way to align ourselves and partner with them. I mean, they've got a young athletes program that's really, more in the kindergarten, first grade type age groups. And, at the start, we weren't going to have enough individuals to probably do that sort of project. They also have a Fitness 5 project. So we've talked to them. I actually just reached out to them again yesterday about trying to figure out a way to, align what we're doing along with what they're doing. We have a great partnership with the local Aim High Down syndrome organization. And we're actually going to have an event on Monday, the 21st. The gym is normally closed, but we're going to have the gym open, and we're going to do a promotion in recognition of World Down Syndrome Day. So we're going to have something going on in the gym. I think we're going to offer a Zumba class and just have some activities and partner with them for that occasion.
Okay. Another question in the chat about people, are they trained, how to train if things go south, as it says in the train? How are people that are working there, or, I mean, your experience as a parent, but are some of the people, and you had mentioned that some of the activity and class people are special education people, can you touch on the training for some of that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, all of our people that are offering classes have worked with the neurodiverse population, whether it's through their work directly. Some of them, as you mentioned, are either special education teachers. Our yoga instructor, in fact, is a speech language pathologist that works with the local high school transition students. So I've got to figure out a way for her to do a speech language class in conjunction with yoga, because then people are getting like a 2-for-1 special. Yeah, I mean, we're equipped, and the sensory gym is not a drop off. So the parent or guardian or caregiver is with their individual. So that provides an additional layer of, safety and support also.
Right. There's a question about the fees. So you have memberships, right? People can sign up as memberships, or they can drop in and pay a one-time fee to use the gym, right?
Correct. There is open play, so you can just sign up almost like you would do at a trampoline park or any other kind of activity space. You just drop in and do an hour or so of open play. We do have monthly club memberships for those that would want to visit a couple of times a week. And then the activities are really, they're also pay as you go. They're about $10. And honestly, we do it because we want to make sure that, people don't just sign up and then not attend, as well as just the money that is raised through any community space activities help plan or help support the future activities. So I mentioned a little earlier that, we want to do something in the world of esports. Well, as a nonprofit, we're not going out tomorrow and buying, $5,000 worth of Nintendo Switches. So any of the money that we retain from the community space activities gets recycled into future community space activities. But the nice thing about being a nonprofit, obviously, we're aligning ourselves with local businesses, and we are seeking out grants. And we're hopeful that we'll be able to continue to maintain things based on those relationships. We do have a really nice program where we have some local businesses underwriting birthday parties for some of our kids from the city school districts and the rural school districts that might not otherwise have the opportunity to come to the space. And we're really proud of that. And we've got other kind of bigger ideas to work on, servicing and supporting the Black and Brown community. We see the word the spectrum word as, not the, as autism spectrum, but also, the spectrum of diversity, the spectrum of ages that are welcome in the space, because all ages are welcome, and then the spectrum of diversity and inclusion. When you think about the underserved population, obviously it's the Black and Brown community, and it's also our population. When people are thinking about, where resources are allocated, whether it's a school district or, things from the CARES Act, it's not always keeping our population, top of mind. And so, that's why we are very much focused on the diversity and inclusion portion of what we're doing in our work.
That's awesome. So if when someone leaves bots, they come play, they come to an activity, right, and they're walking out the door, what is it that you hope they're taking away? What do you hope that they're taking away with them when they're leaving an activity or a class?
That's a great question, Jason. A lot of the grants, this as someone who used to write grants, right? Like the grants always want to talk about outcomes. And I get it, right? Like measurable outcomes, like what are you concretely trying to accomplish? And we do have those for the grants that we seek. But, on a simplistic level, and I don't say this facetiously, we want people to leave with a smile. We want people to have had a better day than they would have had otherwise. The opportunities for our population, especially during COVID and coming out of COVID, are limited. People have to understand that during COVID, when we're all locked into our houses, there were, no different than nursing homes, right? Like our individuals that lived in residential settings for their safety were, in their homes with no visitation. And, for people that struggle for social connection, that's hard. And now that, we're starting to hopefully, clear the corner for COVID, the opportunity for people to get back out into the community and to reconnect. There are some, definitive lost skills that we see. And so, if you're asking me what I hope people leave bots with, I'm hoping that they leave with a smile and, they had a good time regardless, whether they did an art class or they just swang on the swings or they, laid on the crash pads in the sensory room. We got a really, really nice write-up on Facebook today of someone who came in and, loved the space, loved the staff, said our space was clean and bright and happy and friendly. And, like that made, the nights that, were, figuring out QuickBooks on our laptop at 10 o'clock at night. That for me personally, that makes it, all worthwhile. We just want what everybody has. Right. And I think that's what we want for our kids is just the opportunities, whether it's in school or out in the community that they have, opportunities offered to them.
So something we didn't touch on it from just so it's like 6,000 square feet is what roughly.
Correct.
Right. And so when you walk in, there is a large community room for movies, right? I don't know what the fire code number is, but you could have a lot of people in that large space. There's a small room for community gatherings and meetings. And in the back, as you go in, the gym is two-sided, right? It's kind of the younger kids and for older kids or older people with the equipment. And then Lisa mentioned the sensory room. And of course there's bathrooms and stuff, but can you talk a little bit more about the sensory room? What is that in particular?
Sure. The sensory room is just a place for, if our individuals get a little bit overwhelmed or a little anxious from, their play, or sometimes they overspin on the swings. I won't say who did that, but somebody in your house did that one day.
Yeah.
And, there's crash pads, there's yoga bows, there's fiber optic lights, there's floating bubble fish tank, and like LED lights. It's just a place to be soothing and comforting and just sort of like kind of recalibrate yourself. And I think that's, it's a great thing for our folks to have. And we appreciate where that is underwritten locally by our Price Choppers Golub Foundation. They provided us a significant amount of funding to bring on the Spectrum. Quite honestly, I say that we probably wouldn't be where we are today without their initial support, because they are seen as community leaders. And it was very helpful to us to have them on our side and be able to talk to other community leaders. And once they knew, Price Chopper was in, it definitely had people take notice of what we were doing.
For those that aren't in the greater capital region of New York, Price Chopper and the Gold Foundation is the grocery stores, one of the large grocery store chains around here. So you talked a little bit about in a number of years passing it off to someone younger, your words, more passionate, which would be hard to find. What is it, without a time frame, but so that's kind of your goal in it. What do you see Bots doing in 5 years? You've been open 2 weeks. Let's think 5 years. What's Bots going to be?
Yeah. I think what would be great, and I've seen this model, and I can't remember what area I've seen it in, but there's a plan out there where if you think about the space that we're in, Jason, where it's a retail plaza, and this is by no means to wish ill will of any of our neighbors in the retail plaza, but really, if you could take over a retail plaza space, and you've got the sensory gym and you got the community space, and then you could create other small businesses where our individuals could work, a coffee shop, a laundromat. There are great examples out across the country of businesses that have employed our individuals and really accented the work that they can do. Spectrum Designs down in the Long Island area is a promotional product t-shirt company. They have a sister company called Spectrum Bakes, which is a bakery, and then they have Spectrum Suds, which is not beer. Just anyone that is looking for beer it is a laundromat instead. There's a car wash down in Florida, and our individuals are doing car detailing, right? So there's a lot of examples out there of businesses that understand the employability of our individuals. And so to me, it would be great to almost have a retail space that would have all neurodiverse individuals being employed in various businesses. I think that would be great. And I think the bigger longer term issue is, the CDC recently went from, 1 in 54 1 in 54 people have autism to 1 in 44. So we're recognizing people at a younger age, which means that they're getting services earlier. But if we think of, if we're thinking down the road, we're going to have a serious issue relative to affordable supported housing. Our individuals can live on their own, ideally with some supports, whether that's as a push-in or, the ability to make sure that, they've got, a resource for that. But, housing is a huge issue and a huge concern, especially as us parents get older. You want to make sure your kid is, taken care of. And, housing is a big part of that, in a space where they can, be ultimately we want to have them live as independently as possible. And so the question is, on the housing front, how can we do that? And what's the out of the box solution to that?
Right. Awesome. So there's a question about funding. If there was someone low income that wanted to participate, and is there funding available for families that maybe can't pay the fees?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're working on. I mean, we're working on the program that I really want to, and I'm hoping we can get to it by fall. There's a couple of big grantors that we want to work with to really tie directly into the school districts and be able to provide the ability. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, you can come and play for free. Well, how are they getting there? right? Like, I mean,
Right.
we're on a bus line, but transportation is always a hurdle in our communities. And so we want to develop a program where we take care of the transportation, we take care of the play, we provide either a nutritional meal or a nutritional snack before they return home. So it's like an all-encompassing program. And then we also want to work on having financial literacy be part of our programming, not just for the low income families, but really for all of our individuals. I mean, again, it goes to going back to creating those life skills that are needed, and that comes down to the financial training, living safely, cooking at home, all those sorts of life skills activities will be part of what we'll be rolling out.
One of the so as I was promoting this throughout the last week or so when you and I decided we were going to do it. One of the questions came, there's people from all over, just in the chat, all over the country, not just, here in the Albany area. What would be, if someone came back and rewatched this video later, what would be your advice to someone if they wanted to do something similar to bots in their community? How do you get started in something like that?
Well, I mean, I think it's a couple of things. I mean, one, it's, what we did, right? Listen and learn. Just reach out to, people in your community. It's the parents and the individuals, it's the school districts, it's the direct support agencies. What's missing, what's needed for our population. And then think about how you want to build it, right? Like, we originally looked at the sensory gym operation, and we kind of figured out that part of it pretty quickly. We kind of knew the equipment and that sort of portion of it, but we just didn't think that was enough. And so that's where the community space activity came. That's where observing how your family operated, and even the young adults and the adults, like, what is there for them to do. So it's really just a lot of listening and a lot of research and a lot of talking. And then obviously, as with any business, you've got to know where your market is, or where your market is willing to go, and where you want to be. Because, when it comes down to it, because this is an in-person bricks and mortar, operation, it's location, location, location.
Right. Okay. So, Abby put in the chat if you have plans to go into the schools and do presentations.
Yeah, we do. We've done a couple of presentations for the special education PTAs for a couple of our local school districts, and we've got a couple of more that we want to do. So really, it's again, the challenge with the spectrum of ages is there's a lot of different people to talk to, especially in the school systems. We've spent some time talking to the, high school transition departments that are working with the 17 to 21 population. We've spent a lot of time talking to the elementary ed portion of it. So it's really just finding, you can kind of start at the top of the food chain in the school districts, but ultimately you've got to get down to, the day-to-day people who are working with the individuals and the families. So yeah, we've got a lot more work to do in the school front. We've been fortunate. We have a great partnership with Capital Region BOCES, which works with all of our local school districts. So that helps kind of cut through the chase a little bit. So we don't have to work individually with each school district necessarily, although follow up with all of them is key.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about the business, right? The business side of it. Carabelle, your daughter, she's at the gym a lot, right? She's with you when she's there, when she's not in school. What is she taking away from it so far, do you think?
It's funny. I call Carabelle Julie McCoy from the Love Boat. She's like our cruise director. She runs every time she hears the bell on the door, because we've got a video and security system on the facility. Every time she hears the bell, she's like running out there. I'm like, Carabelle, you gotta let them come in the door first, buddy. She keeps asking me, like, what time are the friends coming? So I think for her, it's given her an opportunity to, just continue to expand her universe and continue to expand her social skills, and learning about other individuals. Because again, we're not just autism, right?
Right.
You know, we've had, individuals with other intellectual and developmental disabilities. Later this month, we're going to have the local Hands and Voices group. Carabelle's also deaf, hard of hearing. She wears a cochlear implant. So the local Hands and Voices group is going to come in for a play date. A friend, one of our board members, Jeff, brought in a young man that is legally blind and took him around the space. And, he rode our recumbent bike and he loved the fiber optic curtains in the sensory room. So again, it's, I think it's just, the opportunity to see, I think it's twofold, right? You get an opportunity to see other folks like yourself, right? And so there's a bigger universe to everything. And I think it's also learning about what others' challenges are. And I think it's also being, just happy and grateful that the space exists. Right. I think she's proud of what we've done. And I don't say that in terms of we as in me and her, although it is her and I, but all of the people that have been involved in it along the way. She's aware that there's a community of people who cared enough about people like her to make this happen. And I think that's a great takeaway for a little 11-year-old to learn.
I agree. So I will tell Adler was here. His birthday. We're having his party in the next few weeks. His birthday party, and I know it was decided that it's a safety issue. Something I have to do is explain why there won't be a warped wall there. He's.
I know I should have never mentioned it.
He wants you to get a warped wall, but we completely understand that there's a safety issue there. So
someday, maybe.
Someday. So I have one last question, then I want to open it up if there's anything else in the chat. But if the community, not even if the community wanted to get involved, right? I put so your website is up on the screen in the banner. If the community wanted to get involved, what is it you need? What is it they can do to help bots? Or is it just spread the word? Is spreading the word what the biggest thing right now?
I mean, I think it's all of it, right? I mean, I think, from a local standpoint, I always tell people when they're in there taking cute pictures of their kids, I'm like, share it on social media, right? Like, I mean, that's the best endorsement that we can have. I mean, that mom with her two kids this morning that, raved about us. I mean, A, it just makes you feel good for all the, hard work that you're putting in, but B, that, all of her friends are seeing it and, that just, goodwill always spreads what, good. I mean, we have the typical, Amazon wish list, for, art supplies and canvases. 'Cause we, unfortunately, our classes are extremely popular, so everything that we had in stock, we're churning through pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, donations help. We'll never, turn away or say no to a donation. But at the end of the day, I think it's just goodwill, right? Good wishes for us and for our organization and the positivity that we're trying to spread. For the folks that are, on tonight, we appreciate you just listening and being a part of the conversation. And we're in this for the long haul. So that's our short term ask. It's pretty simple type stuff. I mean, we've got big ideas and big dreams, and with time, we'll make them happen. We've been very fortunate in that people that kind of come through the space and see it, are happy with what we've done. We had a funder of ours that had given us a small grant at the beginning of the project, did a walkthrough back in late November, December. And, it's like one of those things that you knew that was coming, but you kind of forgot. And they're like, well, this is awesome. This is great. This is even better than what they had thought because they could now see the building. And they're like, well, is there anything that you want or you need? I'm like, well, I've been talking about these movie nights forever. I go, I need flat screen TVs. And, shout out to the Capcom Cares Foundation, which is one of our local credit unions. They, sent us a check so we could go out and buy, we've got five flat screen TVs in the space, 3 in our movie room, 1 in our sensory gym, and 1 in our party room. But again, I think that's what happens, right? Like, people come and they see it and they're just like, wow, this is awesome. This is, what you're trying to do is great. We have a giving tree at the front of our building for anybody that donates, $250 and up. We've got families that have contributed that type of money. And, any donation, large or small, is appreciated. But that's what I tell people, when that come and use the space, like, what can we do? I'm like, you let those companies know that you appreciate that they've supported this, because that's what's meaningful and impactful to the companies, is hearing from the beneficiaries.
Right. Any other questions? And again, so everybody that's in the chat, I so appreciate you coming in. And as Lisa said, just listening and hearing and spreading that goodwill. If you take a moment to hit that thumbs up and subscribe, there will be more stuff. One thing that just came to, and my discussion about having conversations with the school, and I'd be willing to help do this if we could find the right people. But it's IEP season, right? For school, all the meetings are happening to determine services for next year and for the summer. And if there's assistance that could be made to parents and caregivers, that as they're preparing for their IEP, that's a big push, whether it's be parental advocates or whatever. But maybe BOTS is a place that could happen, that where it doesn't happen in the school districts as much as it, in my opinion, as much as it should.
Yep.
So,
it's a great idea.
Okay. Any other questions from the chat? We, again, greatly appreciate. I know that you have options. I know some of the reseller community, there are some auctions going on now. And we appreciate you taking some time here on a Saturday evening. Anything in the chat? And then Lisa, one last question. Is there anything that you wanted to touch upon on BOTS that we didn't cover?
No, this has been awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you. Remember tonight, if you're in a state that does daylight savings time, we lose an hour tonight. So, sleep fast, everybody. And, have a good St. Patrick's Day and have a great night. Thank you again for coming out. Thank you,
everybody.